Our world is built on segregation anyway. Divide and conquer. That's what's happening. So I was talking to a friend of mine. I guess I can say a really good friend. And the person is much younger than me, but not young. So I'm not going to blame this conversation on young people. Although, predominantly, those are the people that kind of set the trends when it comes to either Android or Apple. So, and obviously, Samsung's there too. There's a lot of people with Samsung. But I mean, there's a conversation that's obviously circulating, and it's nothing new. It dies down, it picks back up, it dies down, it picks back up. So recently, Google updated their messaging app. It was always great to me, but now you can, when you reply to iPhones, the Apple kind of flipped it. So you probably saw several creators already posting about this, and I really have been trying to avoid this conversation, but it's just too funny at this point. Like, this is where we've come at our place in technology. We're so worried about, and I do believe, now I will say this, age does play a part. Now, I was born, I'll give you a very shallow window. I was born between the 1960s and the 1980s. So my generation is getting everything. We get to see, if we're still living, we've gotten to see everything. I remember my first TV that I got. I remember when there was just the radio was exciting to listen to the radio. Like, that was the thing. Like, oh my God, we get to listen to the radio for 20 minutes. Kid you not. I remember when we first got a TV, and it definitely wasn't a color TV. I just remember before technology. I want to remember when things were great as far as communication goes. And this video is a discussion video about the way we communicate. And I just remember how much fun I had as a younger person. I didn't have very many worries at all. It's incredible. I was excited to do things that people literally take for granted today. Something as simple as just walking down the street. That was exciting. I got to go outside for a little bit. And then also, our text messages were given right on the spot. You saw somebody and say, hey, so. And I remember when the newspapers was a way to communicate, and that's how you found things out. But the green bubble, the blue bubble, Google's messages has different color bubbles too, if you didn't know. It's just like a sky blue when they're not on Messenger and a dark blue when they are. I mean, you can see the little chat. It shows that you're chatting with someone at the bottom of the message. Just like Apple, you can see iMessage instead of text message. So this is kind of comical at best, but this is where we are. So it is important to note that I do believe that in a lot of situations, age plays a part. Meaning, if you're younger, you're in the know. Like, you guys are setting the trends. I'm not going to knock on young people just because I didn't have technology growing up as a young person. I think I was a lot happier than some of these people were, though. I can tell you that, like I said. But the young people are setting the trends. Like, I look at clothing and all different kinds of things. But when it comes to this blue bubble and this green bubble that this phone is just sparking so much drama about, you have Google with phenomenal software too. And unfortunately, though, I don't know where it started, that Android was for poor people and things like that. Someone set this trend, and I think it was probably, well, anyway, I don't know where it started, but somebody set this trend that Android was for poor people and iPhones were for people who had some bread. And it's cool. I'm calling it a trend and a fad because it's ultimately what it is, because it's definitely not true. But people believe it. And it had to have been in someone's high school or middle school or something where they figured, oh, you have that. What is that? We can't even see you on the chat. Things like that. And that's why I say the younger generation set the trends. And I believe they totally, someone between 12 and 25 or 30 set that trend. They probably did. Because I personally don't care what the heck's going on inside of a chat. I don't do the same chatting. Like when I'm chatting about something for a good conversation, dealing with the topic. I'm not just randomly blabbering off stuff. Like I've seen in I've looked at some young people's phones. I'm like, whoa, this is what you're posting? But the green bubble, blue bubble thing I've always said it was really silly. But now Google's kind of making a mockery out of Apple a little bit. When you send messages to an Android phone on, if they don't have an iPhone, you got reactions. You see those reactions there? I was texting myself. You've got reactions. And on Apple, they're doing it too. Let me see if I can find the message I was sending to myself in that same one. Yeah, here we go. See, I can respond. Those are my responses from an Android phone. I thumbed up, I liked it, and you see they're green. So Google has done what they need to do to try to satisfy the masses. But I think, and people keep saying, Apple, is your move. I personally feel, and what hasn't changed is that when you try to send a video from an iPhone to an Android phone directly, it goes across as an MMS still. So the quality is still great. And the same rules apply when you're going from Apple to both ways. The video is shoddy. But when you're on chat to chat, flawless. Full 4K video if you want to send one. I sent a full movie through iMessenger. I tested a full movie through chat. It totally works. Same thing. The quality was great, chat to chat, and that's just how it's going to be, and iMessage to iMessage because of the data. But I just think that if this is where we're headed, and people say, "Oh, Apple, it's your move," I just don't think so. I think from a business perspective, Apple's still looking to just make as much money as possible. They don't really care. And they want people to buy their devices. Because some people have just said, I just bought an iPhone just for iMessage. And I'm just like, wow, really? If you don't know, you don't need an iPhone to do FaceTime. You just invite the person to FaceTime chat, a video call, and wherever device they're on, they click on it, and it works. You're on FaceTime. Now, granted, it looks a little different as far as the settings and stuff go, but it's still FaceTime. Anyone can do FaceTime. So you got to ask yourself, if Apple would open up that, why not just say, okay, Android users, iMessage is now available everywhere. Apple would still if Apple is smart, I said this years ago, I said, if they were to just charge $5 one time or $10 one time, Android users can say what they want. So many people would buy that application. But see, what Apple would do is they try to do it on a monthly subscription. That's what they would do. They try to do it on a monthly subscription, $4 a month or something, to just try to get services, get money from people, and it won't work. There'll be some people out there that do it, but it's totally a waste, just to get the color of a bubble or talk to somebody on iMessage. It's very silly. So Apple won't do it as an application. But they got FaceTime where anyone can FaceTime. You can FaceTime on an Android phone. That's been a while. And there was no big announcement that I knew of. And Android people didn't really get excited about that like I thought they would. Because Apple, the bread and butter is the iPhone. And so in the iPhone, you've got FaceTime and iMessage. And I actually use both of those services on my Mac and other Apple products. I very seldom use FaceTime on the phone because I don't want to hold my phone for a long time. So I'll just come to the Mac or something like that. But I think Apple has the ability. Obviously, they do. They have the capability of doing it. But that is what it is. Just like YouTube. How long did it take Apple to get the? I mean, come on. It's a battle. It's about money, and these companies don't really care about the end users. They only care about themselves and profit. And if you're running a business, that's what you're going to care about. So when I hear people say, just so calmly, I don't respond to green bubbles, it shows a little bit about their personality, for one. And I think that's where that comes in, that Android is for poor people. It's so strange. But I think that shows that if a grown-up is walking around saying that, I think it says a lot about their personality. I really do. I think that they have some soul searching to do, depending on how old they are. If they're a younger, older person, then, I mean, someone that's under 40, really you gotta, I don't know, this is my personal opinion. If something's wrong if you're worried about the color of a message and it just seems, I'm laughing because it's such a silly conversation to have, but it seems to be important to people. And I'm just shocked that this is where we are in 2022, heading into 2023. It's surprising that this is something that's important. With all the things that are going on, this is important. But I understand people have some wants, because it's definitely not a need. It's just a want or a desire. And respect. If that's what's important to you, I get it, but I think it's kind of silly. But Google being able to do reactions to the messages and they're going back and forth, because I thought that was, I mean, it's pretty, it's just really just if you don't want to respond to something, you give a short reaction. Now, what I would like to see is more reactions. Those same basic reactions, that's not enough, because there's some that I'd want to see a lot more than that. The thumbs up, the thumbs down, the laughing, the question, the exclamation point, I'd like to see a little bit more than that. But, you know, this is what they're offering, sadly enough. So I would love to be able to send a short video clip also to a person that's on Android, or vice versa, Android to iPhone. I would love to be able to do that, and it comes across flawlessly. But that's just not the thing. And for security reasons, people think that iMessage is the most secure. I would say that it's not the most secure. I would think SMS and chat and all that would be more secure. But the fact that there are literally people out there who really are concerned about the color of a message, it's kind of disturbing when you think about that. How anal do you have to be to say, oh, I'm not responding to this because they don't have an iPhone? I mean, you talk about bougie and uppity, and iPhones they're not as expensive as people would think, you know. Everyone has access to an iPhone, and everyone has access to Android phones that cost even more than iPhones. So it's about status that people say sometimes, that having an iPhone is status. I just don't see that. I think, you know, like people put the value on things, unfortunately, and there are a group of people that put a value on things, and people, instead of thinking for themselves, they follow. They blindly follow and say, hey, you know, I got to get this because this. So I hope that a lot of people don't fall victim to this argument, or because for me, smartphoneconversations.com, it's just conversation. And also, people have asked me a number of times, like, why aren't you talking about this? And why aren't you covering this? A lot of times just because I just don't want to. I don't, but sometimes I do want to engage with my followers and audience to have the conversation. And this probably will be a great live stream. And I'll start live streaming again. I'm just not really feeling it right now, but I get on some other people's live streams, but I don't know that I'm ready to get back in live stream right now. But this conversation is a slow burn. Apple, like with the Type-C port, they're making too much money off of a Lightning port. But the time's going to come when they're going to have to change to a Type-C. And Apple's going to ride the wave all the way out until they have to. Can you blame them? But I think that if we focus and give energy to this type of thing, and in the tech world, it's always just for the view or the click or, you know, the conversation. It's never really any value added, really, because I personally don't care if a person has an Android or an iPhone. I just don't care. And it just doesn't bother me. It's just a message. But that's why I say it depends on age. I know plenty of people who just, it's not even the conversation, but the only reason I'm in the conversation because I run a small tech channel. That's it. Outside of that, if I did not run a small tech channel, I wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't care. Someone would bring it to my attention, say, "Hey, did you get that? Are you on the chat?" And I'd be like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, you need an iPhone to be on this." I'd be like, "Oh, okay. Well, all right. I'm not gonna buy a new phone just to see what's on a chat or be in a certain group of people. Totally comfortable standing on my own." So, and I'm not saying that people see that's that ice sheep thing that people talk about. I'm not saying that people who only buy iPhones or think everything's great about an iPhone are ice sheep. I just think that it's a silly conversation that people get into and knock down, drag out, just get mad about it. But if you think it's important, I respect everyone's opinion on things. I don't have to agree with it, but I respect it. And if you think it's important that a person, that Apple, weigh it out. Do you think Apple should just cave and make it so it communicates perfectly with Google's chat or Google messaging? Or do you think it should just stay separate? You know, our world is built on segregation anyway. Divide and conquer. That's what's happening. So do you think it's important that they do say, hey, you know what? Let's work this out so the consumers could win? Because ultimately, the consumers are bringing this up. Again, you're talking to a brick wall, because Apple and Google are both going to do what they want to do. Neither one of them is, some people don't want to hear this, but these companies care, but they don't care. They want profit. If I was a big company, I wouldn't listen to the guy way at the bottom first. I would listen to my strategist and who's going to bring me, okay, how much can we get up this quarter? That's what I'm going to listen to first. Just be honest with yourself. As much as we love Google, we love Apple, we love Samsung, LG, whoever you like the most, the shareholders are what counts to these companies. You gotta accept it. So if Apple never decides to have it to where iMessage communicates with Google's Messenger or just text messages in general, it is what it is. I don't think you should lose any sleep over it. I think it's kind of funny. I'm trying to hold back laughter because me making this video is just for fun. It's and some people are out there making the video with seriousness. It's like, are you serious right now? Like you really are serious. You're this agitated because a person is not on an iPhone and you don't want to respond to their messages. I've literally had people tell me, I don't respond to green bubbles. I'm thinking, you got a lot of growing up to do. If someone was offering you a job that paid $700,000 a year and they said, we don't use iPhones here, they're not secure, and we stick with the old school BlackBerry Enterprise, and we use a version of, you're not going to take the job? I think you would take that job, especially if you needed it and you qualified for it and you wanted to launch your career. You're not going to be worried about, I don't respond to green bubbles. It doesn't have a blue bubble, so I'm sorry, I can't take this job, sir. Come on, son. I don't know. It's your man, Jay. Should we be really harping on this so much? Is it really that important? I'm sure you'll sound off in the comments and tell me, Jay, you just don't get it, or something of that nature, or yeah, I think we should or we shouldn't. Just give your opinion. I'm ready to hear it. I think this is going to be a great conversation. It's your man, Jay. I'm out.